A common question that I normally receive about do I really have to learn all of the process for the PMP exam? So, in this session, we'll talk about the importance of learning all of the processes and the exam strategies for learning the 49 processes. Let's talk about the importance of learning all of the processes. So, one of the biggest misconception about PMP exam is that it requires a memorization of all of the 49 processes from the PMBOK guide. However, the PMP exam is not just about recalling definitions, it evaluates your ability to apply the knowledge in real world scenarios. Instead of testing simple reallocation, the exam focuses on how project management processes are applied and interacted with one to other, how it contribute to the project success. While knowing the names of all of the 49 processes is helpful, it is far more important to understand when, why, and how to apply these processes and how when they are used. So the PMP exam often represents a scenario or PMP exam often presents scenario-based questions requiring candidates to determine the best course of action based on the project need. Therefore, mastering the processes, interaction, and dependencies will help in answering the question accurately and confidently. How the 49 processes fit into the bigger picture. So, project management processes are not standalone activities, and they form an interconnected system that ensure projects run smoothly from the initiation to closure. Each of the 49 processes belong to a knowledge area, which is what's being managed, and the process group when it's being managed. For example, risk management as a knowledge area consists of multiple processes distributed across different phases of the project. Some processes, like identify risks, occur early in the project on the planning phase in the planning process group, while others, like monitoring the risk, it, it appear in the monitoring and controlling process group, and they are continuously performed throughout the project. And this structured approach ensure the alignment and consistency and efficient project execution. Instead of memorizing the uh, these activities or these processes list, PMP candidates should focus on understanding how each process contributes to the project success and how they fit together within the project life cycle. Now let's have about talk about the role of ITTOs or inputs, tools and techniques, and outputs, and understanding the processes. So each project management process has an associated inputs, tools, and techniques, and outputs, which is the ITTOs, which explain how it functions. And again, let's say that we are gonna discuss each of these processes with its ITTOs and how it impact on the bigger picture. And many PMP candidates worry about memorizing the ITTOs for each of these processes. But PMI does not expect test takers to recall every detail. Instead, understanding the patterns in the ITTOs makes learning easier. For example, most planning processes have a project management plan as an input, and many monitoring processes have the work performance data as an input. So recognizing these the recurring patterns helps in understanding how information flow between processes rather than relying on only memorizing these processes. By analyzing the ITTOs conceptually, candidates can have better predict outcomes and understand the process with its dependencies and apply knowledge efficiently in scenarios. What are the common exam misconceptions about learning the 49? A common misconception here among PM candidates or test takers is memorizing the 49 processes with their definition and their ITTOs is enough to pass the exam. In reality, I evaluate how well candidates understand the relationship between the processes and their impact on project outcomes. The PMP exam contains situational and scenario based questions that test whether candidates can apply the right process at the right time. Instead of focusing slowly on memorization, it's crucial to develop in-depth understanding of how these processes interact with the five process groups and across different knowledge areas. By practicing with real-world scenarios and sample questions, candidates can build a problem-solving skill. That is essential for passing your PMP exam. How to approach process learning effectively? So instead of trying memorizing all of these 49 processes at once, an effective strategy here to break them down into smaller and manageable sections and align them with the knowledge areas or with the process group, which we are gonna do later on this course. And studying each process group separately and analyzing how processes flow between them helps in understanding the dependencies. For example, planning processes provide an output that become an input for the execution processes and use like visual aids like process flow diagrams, mind maps, and some tables can help in retaining the information. Additionally, relating processes to real-world project example improves the comprehension and the practical application. Candidates who focus on understanding rather than memorizing these processing find it easier to recall the processing during the exam. Now let's have some exam strategies for learning these 49 processing. Not all of the 49 processes are tested equally in exam. So some processes such as developing the project charter or identifying the stakeholders and manage risks may appear more frequently in exam scenarios like integration and risk and stakeholder management, which is critical because they affect multiple knowledge areas. Candidates should prioritize the high impact processes and understand how they influence overall the project execution. By applying the prioritization method or technique, candidates can allocate also study time effectively and improve their exam readiness by taking some of the scenario based questions and try to apply the knowledge and how to align all of these processes into their knowledge areas and process group. Also, an important step here is using scenario based practice question, which I'm also gonna provide you by each of these sessions. You will have, for each different process group, you will have a couple of questions with a count of more than 200 questions that is mixed between questions mainly focused on scenario based questions to ensure that you are well prepared to pass your PMP exam. And the PMP exam does not ask a direct question like, what is the definition of developing a project management? Instead, it presents real world project scenarios, requiring the candidates to choose the best action. And practicing with scenario based question is the best way to develop the analytical skills needed for the exam. Using mock exams help candidates become familiar with the question format and improving the time management confidence. The next step here, sure that you have an effective study plan, is to use study aids or flowcharts or mind maps. So uh, using cards also, try to map different knowledge areas with the project constraints and process groups, aligning all of these processes to each knowledge areas and will help you memorizing or not memorizing or understanding how these processes flow with each other. And that helps you remembering the process sequence. You may use like flashcards or process charts and study guides to ensure the better retention of this information. Repeated exposure to key concepts strengthen the memory and improve the recall during the exam. Here also, it's a very important advice or have to follow. It's allocating time to study effectively without any noise. So preparing for the PMP exam requires a disciplined, strategic approach to study all of these 49 processes. Rather than attempting to cover all of the processes in a short amount of time, you should focus on structured study plan that breaks down each process group and knowledge area systematically. Allocating study time based on the complexity and the exam weightages is crucial. Areas like integration, scope, and risk management require more focus due to their significance in project management and frequent appearance in the exam scenarios. Also, one effective approach to follow study schedule that dedicates specific days or weeks to each knowledge area. For example, spending a week on planning processes allows for a deeper understanding rather than just rushing through multiple topics. Additionally, using mock tests and self assessment at regular intervals helps candidates to identify the weak areas and adjust their study strategy accordingly. By following an organized study approach and frequently testing knowledge with practice questions, you may minimize the retention and ensure that you are well prepared for the exam. And my final tips for learning all of these 49 processes as candidates approach the final stage of their PMP preparation, it's important to shift the focus from understanding individual processes to seeing the bigger picture of how they interact with the project life cycle. So, the best way to retain the knowledge is to link the processes to real world project experience. And this allows candidates to connect theoretical concepts with practical application. For example, if you have managed scope changes in project related to perform integration change control process by associating the process with familiar scenarios, learning become easier and more innovative. The another critical factor here is the constant revision and reinforcement. So candidates should not wait until the last moment to review the concepts. Instead, you should schedule weekly reviews of previously studied materials, making use also of the flashcards, mind maps, and summary notes. And that will help you to reinforce learning and prevents forgetting the key concepts. Furthermore, candidates, so you should avoid last minute cramming and instead engage in active learning by teaching others, discussing topics with peers, or writing explanation in their own words. The PMP exam is not just about recalling definition, it's about applying the knowledge in real world scenarios. By focusing on a conceptual understanding of the 49 processes, using scenario based practice questions, and following a structured revision plan, candidates can significantly improve their chances of passing the PMP.